There are three bets you need to place for Thursday Night Football this week. I'm Connor Allen from 44 Bets, and this week's game is between the Philadelphia Eagles and Minnesota Vikings. The Eagles started the week as 7.5-point favorites in some spots, but are now as low as 6-point favorites. This doesn't seem like a massive move of only 1.5 points, but 7 and 6.5 are both pretty key numbers in football when you think about how often a team wins by. The total sits at 49, which means we are seeing the Eagles team total around 27, 28, and Vikings at 21, 22 at most sports books. But the first actual bet that I like in this game is Dallas Goedert to go over his receiving yard prop of 48.5 yards with a little sprinkle on his alternate over of 60.5 at plus 162. Dallas Goedert's coming off obviously a massive dud last week in week 1, but I think this is a great buying opportunity. The Eagles passing game as a whole struggled last week, but should be much more successful against a Vikings defense that let Baker Mayfield look competent last week. Mayfield also targeted the tight end position on 6 of his 34 attempts, despite it being to Cade Otton and Ko Kieft. Two players are obviously not in the same stratosphere as a guy like Dallas Goedert. And if you go back and watch the game, you'll see there's gaping holes in the seams of the Vikings defense that I think Goedert should be able to shred and pick apart easily. Goedert cleared this number of 48.5 in 9 to 15 games all of last season, and now draws a specifically good matchup against his Vikings defense that plays a ton of zone and blitzes a bunch, both of which they were league leaders in the league for week 1. And now we're looking at a spot here where Dallas Goedert in those situations against zone and blitz had a 21% target share last year and averaged more than 10 yards per target. On top of this, you have offensive coordinator Brian Johnson mentioning that they need to get Dallas Goedert on top after a dud week. So it's a little bit of a squeaky wheel narrative on top as a little bit of icing on the cake with this one. I know people got in early. The number opened to like 40. People bet it at 41, 42. But I think this is a good spot to take the over up to 50 here with considering the matchup and what we'll see out of this offense. But my bet on the actual game here is kind of along the same lines. I like the Eagles to win here and win by a touchdown or more. So betting the Eagles at -6, -6.5 is totally fine. The Eagles defense is a little bit banged up, but the Vikings will be without 2 of their primary starting offensive linemen. And that is a big deal going against Jalen Carter, who looks like he's the real deal in the NFL here. As I mentioned earlier, I think the Eagles offense will have a pretty big advantage here against this Vikings defense that lost multiple starters from last season and really wasn't good against a Buccaneers team that we don't really expect to be very good this season either. So I wouldn't take this at -7, but -6, -6.5. I think that is more than in play here. And my final bet for Thursday Night Football is Philadelphia Eagles defender Justin Evans to go over 4.5 tackles and assists. I also play this at 5.5 at plus money. Over in our Discord at 4 for 4, our tackle god himself, Ryan Noonan, who analyzes tackle props, released this as a bet. And I think it's absolute money. So Evans played 96% of the snaps in week 1 versus New England, finishing with 8 tackles and assists. His 9.63 snaps per tackle and assist was right in line with his average over the past 2 seasons, a 9.9 average of tackles and assists per snap. Both of Tampa Bay safeties last week went over this mark in week 1 against Minnesota, which backs up, the slightly above average, higher than tackle rating by opposing safety. So the matchup's good. We're probably going to see him play a lot. And so if he's on the field, he should be able to clear 5 or 6 pretty easily, I think, in this matchup. We haven't projected at 6.1, but we'd play this at 5.5 at plus money as well. So I appreciate you guys watching the video. Like, subscribe to the channel. And if you want more bets, you can come over to 4for4.com and find us under our betting subscription. Code YouTube gets you 25% off.